It started on a night so polished, so curated, you'd think nothing messy could ever slip through the cracks. The penthouse at the top of Horizon Tower gleamed like a crystal box against the Manhattan skyline. Every light perfectly dimmed, every flute of champagne poured to the exact ounce. Billionaires, tech moguls, and influencers floated through the room, all perfectly styled, while soft jazz hummed in the background. It was the 10th anniversary of Atlas Innovations, the empire built by Ethan Blackwood, the quiet young billionaire whose name carried as much weight as his fortune. People buzzed around him like he was the sun, but his attention was elsewhere, on his mother Veronica, who stood like a queen surveying her kingdom. And somewhere in that kingdom was Mariah James, a 26-year-old event staffer, with her hair pulled into a neat bun, hoping to make enough tonight to cover rent and her brother's overdue tuition. She kept her head down, stayed invisible, just another uniform in a sea of designer gowns. Then came the gasp. My earring. Veronica hissed, her hand shooting to her left ear. Conversations faltered. Phones were lowered and a hush swept the room. The missing piece wasn't just any accessory. It was a custom emerald and platinum creation valued higher than most of the cars parked outside. Security began their silent sweep, and tension rippled through the glittering crowd. Mariah, balancing a tray of glasses, weaved between clusters of whispers, her eyes scanning the room. That's when she saw it, a glint under the marble couch leg by the balcony. She bent down, picked it up delicately, and turned to find Veronica's gaze fixed on her like a hawk spotting prey. "You little thief," Veronica spat, marching forward. "You thought you could pocket this, didn't you?" Gasps erupted. Champagne glasses froze midair. "No, ma'am," Mariah stammered, holding it out with trembling hands. "I just found it right there." She didn't get to finish. Veronica snatched the earring, and with one vicious yank, she ripped open the top buttons of Mariah's uniform. Fabric tore, leaving Mariah clutching her chest in shock as the room erupted into a low hum of scandalized whispers. Someone's phone started recording. "Trash like you always does," Veronica sneered. "You'd pawn this and call it a lucky day." Mariah blinked back tears, her voice cracking. "I was returning it." But no one defended her. Not a single guest stepped in. They just watched. And then, enough. Ethan's voice cut through the room like ice water. Conversations stopped mid-breath. He strode forward, calm but radiating power, and stepped in front of Mariah, draping his blazer over her shoulders like a shield. "You accused an innocent woman, humiliated her in front of strangers, and you didn't even listen," he said, his voice steady but sharp. Veronica's eyes widened, scandalized. "Excuse me," she hissed. "You heard me," Ethan replied. He turned to Mariah, meeting her wide, tear-filled eyes. "Come with me," he murmured. She nodded, clutching his blazer like armor as he led her out. No applause followed, just a heavy, uncomfortable silence. In the elevator, Mariah's voice trembled. "You didn't have to do that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause trouble." Ethan turned toward her, jaw tight. "You didn't cause this. She did. I've seen my mother manipulate boardrooms, but tearing into someone who was doing the right thing, I won't let that slide." He guided her to a quiet guest suite, handed her soft clothes, and gave her space. Later, when she emerged wrapped in his oversized sweater, he offered her tea, and for the first time that night she exhaled. "Thank you," she whispered. "No one ever defends people like me." Ethan looked at her like he was seeing her, not the uniform, not the humiliation, but her, and something in him shifted. By morning, the internet was a wildfire. Veronica. The Maid trended on every platform. Clips of Veronica's tirade spread like gasoline, slowed down freeze frames of Ethan shielding Mariah becoming instant memes. News anchors called him the people's billionaire. But inside his office, Ethan ignored every PR strategist begging him to spin the story. "She humiliated someone," he said flatly. "I won't bury that just because it's messy." He sent Mariah a message. "If you're okay with it, I'd like to meet somewhere quiet. No cameras, just us." Hours later, her reply came. "Coffee. Somewhere no one knows you." That night, in a tiny Brooklyn cafe, Ethan walked in wearing a hoodie, No entourage. You actually came, he said softly. Mariah sipped from a chipped mug. I was curious. Wanted to see the real you, not the one under a spotlight. For an hour, they didn't talk about the scandal. They talked about her dream of becoming a nurse, his suffocating legacy, and the way people treated him like a brand, not a person. You looked at me like I was just a guy at a party, he said. Because you were, she replied with a small smile. Something warm sparked between them. Not romance yet, but recognition. Respect. Days later, Ethan posted a message that silenced speculation. Mariah James is not a thief. She is not a scandal. She is a good person who was wronged by a room that should have done better, including me. This isn't PR. This is an apology. No hashtags, no spin, just truth. And while the internet moved on another celebrity affair, another politician's scandal, the bond between them quietly deepened. They met weekly, then twice a week, always in hidden cafes, quiet bookstores, parks where no one cared who he was. In those stolen hours, Mariah found someone who didn't pity her, and Ethan found someone who saw past the billions. Then came the leak. A grainy paparazzi shot of them walking along the East River Promenade, Ethan's hand resting gently at her back. The headlines roared, "Gold digger alert." Gossip blogs speculated about the maid-turned-girlfriend. The whispers grew ugly. That night, while Ethan rushed to her apartment, someone else arrived first. Veronica. She stormed in like a thundercloud flanked by bodyguards. "You think this is a game?" She snapped, her heels clicking like gunfire. "Embarrassing this family again." Mariah stood barefoot in sweatpants, phone in hand, but her voice was steady. "I didn't leak anything. I've kept this private." Veronica's gaze swept over her like she was dirt. "You're a maid with a sob story. This ends one way, forgotten while he moves on." Before Mariah could answer, Ethan's voice sliced through the tension. "Mother, stop." He stepped into the doorway, fury simmering. "How dare you come here uninvited?" "She doesn't answer to you." Veronica's eyes narrowed. "She's using you. You've given up board votes and deals for her. You're throwing your name away." "She's the only one telling me the truth, including you," he snapped. Silence thickened. Veronica straightened her shoulders. "Then you've chosen." "I have," Ethan said coldly. And just like that, she turned and left. That night, Ethan knelt in front of Mariah, handing her water as her hands shook. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "It's not your fault," she replied softly. "We just wanted to believe we could live in a bubble." He took her hands. "I don't want a bubble. I want a life with you in it." She hesitated, fear flickering in her eyes. "Your mother will turn the board against you. You'll lose everything." He gave a small, exhausted smile. "I already did. I resigned this morning." Her breath caught. "You? What, I've been sitting at that table with people I don't trust, running a company that doesn't feel like mine anymore," he said gently. "I'd rather build something honest from scratch than stay trapped in something corrupt." The next day, Ethan posted a simple video. No studio lighting, no scripted PR statement. "I fell in love with someone unexpected. Not because she fit my world, but because she reminded me there's life beyond it. Her name is Mariah. If you think that makes her less worthy, you don't know what worth is." People cried, people mocked, but Ethan didn't care. For the first time, he wasn't performing. He was just a man choosing truth. A year later, the penthouse was a memory. Ethan and Mariah lived in a modest Brooklyn loft with mismatched pillows, a crooked bookshelf, and the smell of cinnamon in the kitchen. He'd built a nonprofit tech initiative focused on affordable health care, a project inspired by her nursing dreams. She'd been accepted into nursing school, working part-time at a community clinic. Sometimes she'd sit at their cluttered coffee table surrounded by textbooks while Ethan quizzed her on anatomy terms. The world had moved on, but their lives had grown roots. One evening, a courier dropped off an envelope, no logo, just Veronica's elegant handwriting. Inside was a short note. "I do not expect forgiveness. but I was wrong. Not just in how I treated you, but in how I raised my son to believe dignity had a dress code. You've proven me wrong, and for that, I'm grateful." Mariah folded it carefully and tucked it into a wooden box alongside her father's watch and her school acceptance letter, not because she needed the apology, but because healing mattered. Months later, she sat on stage at a small bookstore for the launch of her memoir, From Maid to Muse. The book wasn't revenge, it was a story about resilience, class, and reclaiming your voice. After the reading, a little girl approached her wide-eyed. "You wrote a book," the girl whispered. Mariah smiled. "I did. I want to be like you." Mariah knelt and said, "Then you already are." It wasn't dramatic, but it was everything. Early one morning, wearing one of Ethan's oversized t-shirts, Mariah was making tea when he wrapped his arms around her and whispered, "Let's make it forever." She turned startled to see a simple silver band, no stone, just an inscription. "I see you." She smiled. "Only if I get to choose the wedding playlist." He grinned. Non-negotiable. They never became tabloid royalty. They never threw million-dollar parties. Instead, they built clinics, mentored kids, and held on to each other through quiet moments. When people asked how they met, they always said, "On the worst night of her life." And somehow that night became the start of everything good. What about you? Have you ever witnessed someone stand up when the whole world stayed silent? Do you believe love and dignity are worth more than status? Drop your thoughts below. Share this story if it moved you. And don't forget to subscribe, because these are the stories that remind us what's real.